Couple of Drinks presents One Rewrite, a brand new show. But before we get into what the hell that all means, I would like to introduce our special guest tonight, Robbie.
What up?
He is more famous than me, so really, if you're watching this, you know him, not me. Um, tonight we're doing a new show called One Rewrite, in which we take a show or a TV show or a movie, and we get a chance to rewrite it. And particularly, what I want to do with this is not totally remake it, so just a rewrite, which means basically in this sense we're doing Iron Fist. Marvel comes to us and goes, "Hey, Bill and Robbie, Iron Fist is shit. We know it, but we've already cast everybody and we've scouted out locations and we have a basic structure. Can you fix it?" So we're not throwing everything out. We could rewrite all the dialogue because everything can be redone in reshoots, and we're just trying to salvage something that was not great or bad or awful and try to make it better.
I mean, really, DC's been doing this forever. They bring Joss Whedon in, they reshoot a few things, they call it good to go.
Yeah, they do that all the time, and just doesn't work. We're trying to make it work. So the idea, again, is we can't completely restructure it. We can't really add a lot of new locations. We have to
Can't get rid of Finn Jones.
Yeah, we can't get rid of, the other thing is we're adding a stipulation from the studio in all of these, and in this one, the stipulation is we can't change the cast. Well, at least the main cast, because I'm changing one person. But they have a minor part, so I thought it was okay. So, I mean, I was raised to be polite, and every part of me says that you should go first since you're the special guest, but I don't know, since this is the first time I've ever done this. Would you like to go first or second, sir?
No, it's your show. Take it away.
Okay, so we're going to start off with what we liked in the show and what we want to change in the show, and then we'll do our pitch.
All right.
Things that I liked in the show were actually a lot of the cast I thought worked really well, and I thought some of the elements and arcs work, but they were all kind of muddied along the way. I did like Finn Jones, and oh god, she wasn't awful for me. Okay, he wasn't awful. I'm not saying he was good. I'm saying he didn't bother me. There were enough charming moments in it for me to really enjoy him, but there were also some really bad moments. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. I mean, it's just your opinion, but I think Cersei had the right idea of blowing him up.
But yeah, she did. But mostly I enjoyed the chemistry between him and Jessica. How do you pronounce Henwick, who played Wing.
Colleen?
Yeah, Colleen.
Ah.
They're and he has this every now and then he has this very big childish moment that I like. He has this childish excitement. When he goes,
fair.
"Oh, you have nunchucks? That's cool." And he's totally acting like a 12-year-old. Or when he dives under his dad's desk and he looks at the stickers. I really liked that moment, so I kind of want to play up on those a little bit more. Things that I didn't like were the fight scenes didn't work, the Meachums didn't work well. Danny didn't have an arc at all. And so that needs to be changed completely. I didn't like that Madame Gao was part of the Hand. You didn't care about Davos, and Rosario Dawson was completely shoehorned in. So those are the things that I'm fixing.
Okay.
So
you had a few good points there. First of all, Colleen Wing was probably the best part
of the whole show.
Of the entire show.
Yeah.
And even if there were any parts where she kind of lagged out a little bit or felt a little bit, I'm going to blame that on Danny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I would.
Overall, I think that Iron Fist had a lot of great moments that it failed to deliver on. There was a lot of things that I thought that it did really, really well, or that it started to work on. It's like Liz had given them, or Marvel had given them a laundry list of these are all the major points that we want you to hit, but they just didn't pay out like they should have, right?
It's like I always said this in all of our other reviews, is how every other Marvel show on Netflix right now, Acts 1 and 2 are really good, and Act 3 stumbles really hard, never really fulfills itself, and then the finale kind of makes up for it.
I don't know if I would agree with that.
Well, it's I don't remember what was in Iron Fist, but once, not in Iron Fist, but in Daredevil 1, but in Daredevil 2, it's pretty much as soon as the Punisher stops becoming the main character and it goes to Elektra, it kind of stumbles. In Jessica Jones, when
Elektra was just a whole different problem.
And Jessica Jones, after Kilgrave gets out, it kind of stumbles. In Luke Cage, when Cottonmouth is killed, it stumbles really hard. But usually the finale makes up for it. If you think about all the shows and the Defenders being the finale that's going to make up for it, this is the stumble. Iron Fist is
I
the stumble.
suppose, because Iron Fist definitely did not deliver on that last episode.
No, oh God,
Uh,
no, and I'm fixing that too. Don't worry.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah. All right, so first of all, one of the things that I really liked starting at the beginning, this whole idea of him coming back and like him not knowing how to fit into society. That's always a really fun trope to
yeah,
play
it
around
is.
with, right? But I think there was a few things they did a little incorrectly. Like for example, first of all, he's a grown ass man. All right, so he should understand you can't just walk into a building like this and just be like, hey, I'm Danny Rand. I've been in this kingdom of heaven for the past, how many years, even though you guys thought I was dead. So now let me up to see the CEO. That's not going to work in
No,
any case. Even if like do it once, that's fine. But the fact that he had to end up landing himself in a mental house before he realized, this isn't the way to go about it, that was a little much.
that was a little much. As much as I enjoyed him being in the mental house, I
Mhm.
liked those scenes and I like how he broke out. But you're right, it was a little ham-fisted
Yep.
and too much on the nose.
And one of the things that I think that this show could have actually benefited from a lot, which normally I don't like when people do this because I think it's way overused and I don't think it's used to the best of its ability, is flashback sequences, a la how Arrow did it in the beginning with the island, or even the way that Daredevil did flashback sequences really well, where it flashes back to some point where he's remembering something or a lesson that he learned that he can then apply to the situation that he's in.
Yeah.
One of the things that Iron Fist has going for him amongst all the Defenders is, in a general sweeping sense, the Iron Fist story is the most interesting. I mean, he tames a freaking dragon.
Right.
All right? That should be so freaking cool. They show none of that. They show maybe 1% of what happens in Kunlun, right?
Yeah, we
so
don't
since
we
they
don't
do,
get Kunlun at all, pretty much.
right. There's a few times where like out in the forest, or there might have been like one scene where he was in a dojo or something. They showed enough of it to where we can use that set piece to where you could have flashbacks every few episodes, right? Because just having what's happened in New York, absolutely terrible, right? To exclude all of that Kunlun stuff. So what I would have done is each episode, you should have had a flashback to Kunlun to show us a little bit about that, so that way you can kind of take what he learns there and then apply it to what's going on. So when he realizes, I can teach the Meacham girl, or show her who I am by sending her all these Skittles without that color we used to always take out, right? I think they actually did use a flashback from like his normal life to do that. But doing things like that with flashbacks would have been a great way to show his growth from a child into an adult, and how what he experienced in Kunlun shaped him. Because one of the things that one of the dualities they could have showed us was obviously when he comes back to New York, he feels like an outsider, even though he's amongst his peers.
Yeah.
And obviously in Kunlun, he definitely would have felt like an outsider because, well, he was. Right. So that's one of the major big things I would have added, was flashbacks to help break up the monotony of what was going on in the show as it is.
Oh yeah, no, that's smart. Yeah, like one thing I do is I put actual Kunlun as a set piece, because we have parts of it. We gotta utilize it more, because one of the major things is Danny never had an arc. We never knew why he left Kunlun.
Well, they kind of had a quote unquote, and this is I would actually
help.
taken this out completely. But every time that it would flash back to the accident when they're in the plane, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they were trying to do what all the old Batman movies tried to do, make him feel tortured. And it's like he was trying to figure out or come to grips with what happened on the plane. There was no mystery there. We all knew what happens on the plane. He knew what happens on the plane. That wasn't something that he needed to come to grips with. What would have been a lot more interesting, especially since they decided we're not going to show you the battle that he has against the dragon, right? Once he tamed the dragon in real life, physically, what his arc should have been through the show was he now has the Iron Fist within him. He has basically this burning dragon fire, having to come to grips with that, having to tame that emotionally, psychologically, right? If he had within him this, metaphorical dragon or actual dragon that was basically wants him to use its power, wants him to just, let loose. If he had to spend the entire show trying to control that, practice restraint, and that was maybe making him go out of control or making it seem like he was crazy, so they sent him to the crazy house, that would have been a lot better arc than the nothing that we got.
Yeah, no, I like that. So we're gonna jump into our pitches, so to speak, right now. You want me to go first, and then you go second?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm actually really excited to hear what you have, because one thing I'm really excited about all of this is I have something up in my head, but I can't wait to hear what you do with the show, and I want to know what Robbie's version of Iron Fist is. So I hope you're excited for mine. So the one thing I wanted to do, a lot of people complained about Danny, how he's not acting like he is in the comic books. He's headstrong, rushes into things. I want to make that a core part of him, and at the end of the show, have him more level-headed and where he's supposed to be. Use it as a character point. So the episode actually starts off with the plane crash, and it cuts these fast, like hot flash cuts to like him training as a little kid, like them beating him. Davos being mean to him, because another problem is Davos was introduced way too late. He didn't have a point, and he was useless. So I'm putting Davos in early, and what you find out is it's just him meditating in the morning at Kunlun, and he's meditating and he's getting all these things because it's the anniversary of his arrival to Kunlun. It's been the 15 years or whatever. The doorway is open now, and it's the day that he and Davos will do a trial to see who gets to take on, I forgot the dragon's name, like Xiaolong or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So it's going to be him and Davos and him are best friends. And they know each other's weaknesses. They know each other, their strengths. They kid around, they play around, and they're like, okay, we're ready to do this. Let's go. And they go meet their master, and their master talks to them about how, each of you are the strongest and the best that is in Kunlun right now for this trial, and since the gateway is open, we need an Iron Fist, and but each of you also have problems that will take lifetimes to master. Danny, you rush in too fast, and with that your flame will be extinguished if you aren't careful. Davos, you burn too bright, you're too hot-headed, the anger gets to you too fast. That could cause problems for you if you aren't again willing to keep yourself in control. You could be controlled by your enemies by that. This whole speech about literally just laying out character problems, because that's something that we needed to know right away. And the other thing is we needed to see Kunlun, to see how beautiful it was, because one of my favorite lines was Madame Gao saying, "Why did you leave heaven?" And that line is going to stay because it's great. So they do the trial. It's whatever. It's like maybe it's a sparring match and like an agility match and all this stuff, and it's neck and neck, and Danny goes for a jump or something like that and misses, and Davos wins. Davos is going to go be the Iron Fist. And Danny's like, yep, I'm starting to see what the master was talking about, and I messed up. I wanted this more than anybody else. But he's happy for his friend. And Davos is like, listen, I'm sorry it's not you, but I'm really excited. And he goes, yeah, no, I'm excited too. And he goes, will you be outside the cave for me? And so they go together to the cave, and Davos goes into the cave alone, and Danny starts meditating again and is woken up by the screams of Davos and runs into the cave. Title. Okay? That's the new title. And then the other problem I have is that if the Hand is going to be your main villain in this series, it needs to be a little bit more structured and not so Hydra. They can't be the small version of Hydra, where it's like, we do everything and we have infighting. No, we need to lay it out a little better. So I want this very cliche, like all shadowy figures sitting around like a table talking about their problems. And they're saying, Nobu screwed up. We are in a horrible spot right now. Nobu was the guy from Daredevil who got his head cut off. He failed us twice. He's now dead for good. On top of that, this is like total name dropping part where they Cottonmouth screwed up, and now there's more, vigilantes on the streets. We cannot move forward, and also the Dragon Clan is in our way, and Madame Gao has pushed us out of the heroin business. Madame Gao is not part of the Hand in my story, and we need to do something. At this point, what is his name? Was it Bushido? Was that his name? The master? I forgot for Colleen. I totally forgot to look this up.
Oh, I know who you mean though. Colleen's master.
Yeah, Colleen's master. What was his name?
I don't remember his name.
Phil. Bakudu?
Oh, Baktu, I think,
Baktu,
something like that. Yeah.
Baktu. This is the only time you see him step up and goes, "I have a plan." And they're, Baktu, why are you talking up? You're just the guy who fills our forces. You recruit them. And he goes, "I know how to take care of all of our problems. Removed, the Madame Gao, remove her, get our operations back in order, and make sure that our boss is happy." He goes, "Just leave it to me. I just need a couple of good men." Cuts back to Kunlun, and it's somewhere in here the Meachums show up too. And I've changed it's like I don't have like a total idea for the first episode, and then the rest of it's kind of arced out nicely. But like somewhere in here also the Meachums are here, and since it's the anniversary of Danny's death, and you also find out that Harold, their dad, just died. what's his name? Ward is distraught. Because I liked Ward where he was at the end of the show. I didn't like him where he was at the beginning of the show. So he's distraught because every year on Danny's death, he gets really depressed. Because he knew he treated Danny like shit. He knew this. He was always upset about it. So he takes it really bad to heart because he's like, he never got to fix it. And he's trying to be a perfectionist because that's what his dad tried to make him do it. So Jill's trying to take care of everything going on in the company right now. Someone comes to him that there's this money going out somewhere. And she's like, well, don't worry about Ward. I'll handle this right now. So she starts getting on the trail of the heroin operation.
Right.
So this is basically just a very basic, investigation thing going on here. Cut back to Kunlun. Davos is severely hurt, and Danny now has the tattoo, and he's like, I didn't think things through. Davos was screaming, I wanted to save my friend so he wasn't killed, and I stole his glory. But he's sitting outside protecting Kunlun's gateway. And, he's talking to the master, and the master goes, you did what you thought was right. You wanted to protect a friend, and this happened, but now you're the Iron Fist, and you have a duty. Davos will figure it out. He'll be okay. He'll get over it. It's like, he'll understand soon enough what you did was not to shame him, but to save him.
Spoilers, he doesn't get over it.
Well, this is the fun part. A little bit later, we'll go back to like the Meachums doing stuff, and Davos comes to visit him, and it's that scene where they're sitting on the rocks and the mountains and it's snowing, and he's protecting the way, and they have that nice little talk. And Davos goes, "I was angry at first, I really was, but I know you. I've known you for 15 years. You're my brother, and just jokingly, so when you die, I'll just do the trial again. I'll get it. Don't worry about it, And there's this funny thing where, he's like all bandaged up, and like you can see that the tattoo started on Davos, but it didn't finish. But Danny has the full one because, spoilers, he's going to be the Steel Serpent, but whatever. But as Davos is about to leave, an attack happens. And this is supposed to be the big opening fight. This is to set your tone. So we've cut, like, when I said that fight scenes were bad, they tried to do too many fight scenes. Like, every episode had a fight scene. It doesn't need every episode to have a fight scene. You just need good ones. And Finn Jones said that they just didn't have time. That's why it looks so weak. So we're cutting half that shit for this big one right here. And it's like 50 guys coming through this little crack in the wall. And they're all, like, you can't see their faces. And like, Danny's like, oh, shit. Okay. They want into Kunlun, and this is my job. So it's like this classic, huge, awesome fight scene. It has to be the most spectacular one in the whole series. It needs to set the tone right off the bat. And throughout the fight, Davos comes back, helps him, and two things happen. Davos is killed, and his body is taken away. And the gateway to Kunlun closes. And Danny can't go back. So one guy's still breathing, and he picks him up and goes, "Who the hell are you guys? And what did you do to Davos?" And he goes, "We are the Dragon Clan, and we've come to kill the Iron Fist." And he goes, "Well," some cheesy line of that. And Danny has this realization where he goes, "Well, I'm supposed to defend Kunlun, but it's not coming back for 15 years. What good is an immortal weapon if the defense is good? You'll go on the offense." So he asks them, "Where are you located?" And, some torture scene, he goes, "New York." He goes, "Going back to New York." So already you have a reason for him to go back to New York, why he left Kunlun, because the gateway is shut, and that cleans up a lot of that problem. And cuts back to New York, and the tech who gave Joyce the information is shot in the alleyway by some thugs. Joyce sees it, they chase after her, and she runs, does the classic thing where like her heels break because she's a businesswoman. Just something a little cliche, and all of a sudden, as the thugs catch up to her, something jumps down from the alleyway, boom, boom, done, and turns, and the hand reaches out, picks him up. Guy wearing a classic, like, it looks like Daredevil mask, but the eyes are cut out, and there's the dragon right there, and you go, what's Danny doing in New York? End of the first episode. So, so you go, okay, so it sets up a better structure, and basically the first arc of this is like the first 4 episode I call the Vigilante arc. The next episode starts with like Danny realizing that he's back in New York. He's fought his way through like cage fights to get money to scrounge up to go to New York. He goes to New York because he's gonna find out where they took Davos. He wants Davos's body back so he can bury him properly, but he can't. So he goes to New York, and he learns up on everything that happened in New York, the Avengers, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and all that. And he's like, superheroes are real now. And this kind of like kiddish thing was like, okay, well, I'll be a superhero. Why not? And like he puts a mask on because he's like, well, maybe someone will notice me. I mean, I'm Danny Rand. Like that's kind of naivety. And so he saves Joyce because he looks down and he wants to say Joyce, and she looks at the eyes and goes, do I know you? And he's like, no, I'm the Iron Fist, and runs away, like totally like kiddie-ish thing. He's like, that sounds dumb. But anyways, she like realizes that the eyes look very similar, and we cast somebody who plays his dad that looks more like Finn Jones and has the same eyes, so to speak.
Right.
We do a little bit better. That's the only person I'm changing in the cast. And she stares at the picture every day in the office and goes, trying to make a connection. We're like, this is insane. I'm crazy, but I need to find out what was going on and why the tech got killed. But Danny meets Wing in the same way and kind of try to goes, I need a place to meditate.
Right.
I want to be here because this is more familiar of where I was. Wing is reluctant, but they kind of get together, the kind of thing, in the way that he does just meditate there. He does some training off to his side, and she's like, you're way too good at it. And he's like, no, just you teach your class. I have the highest respect for you because you're a master, and I will not interfere with you. We're going to change a little bit of that, too. And then basically it ends with Colleen going to the cage match, and the cage match is a little bit bigger in mine. It's the same set, but the importance has it. She's getting there for money, while Iron Fist is tracking down all these thugs and finds out that they're using the cage fight to recruit people, a la Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. So he goes there and he starts entering it as the Iron Fist, and the word starts to get out, and she starts fighting the dragon's daughter, and that she realizes it's Wing, and she realizes it's Danny, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? And Danny's like, I'm trying to follow a thing here. You just beat me up because they're talking to the losers, not the winners. The winners are too high profile and they can make money off you. I want them to talk to me so I can get into their gang and find out what's going on. And it's at this point that Gao steps in, and she's in charge of the Dragon Clan. And she goes, the immortal Iron Fist, take care of him. I want him killed. So it becomes like this huge fight thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the arc of pretty much a little bit less dumb of the whole like turning with a hand, but like basically all that happens in Act 2 is it's pretty much the same thing where they take out the heroine Wing, they go after Gao, but they don't go to China because that was really dumb.
That was super dumb.
It's just like some warehouses by the river. They trace it down there. They do, again, this is going to be a pretty good fight scene. It doesn't have to be the most technically advanced or anything, but it's just like a good him versus a bunch of thugs and like basic kung fu guys, and Wing's there too, and she gets poisoned still. And at this point, she gets poisoned. Also, Clara Rosario Dawson's character gets introduced, and she's not introduced in the, I'm training with Colleen. It's more of, she finds Danny get the shit kicked out of him, and she's like, really, am I just drawn to weirdos in masks? Because at this point, I feel like it. And she's a little bit more stubborn about it, saying, listen, I've seen enough of you vigilante people that you need to smarten up because you are being an idiot. And kind of being the voice of reason. And like he starts to listen to her, and she gets introduced that way. They capture Gao, but Wing gets poisoned like normal. She goes, call this number. And at this point, you see whatever his name was, Bakatu or whatever his name is. At this point, the audience goes, he's bad news. Nobody else knows this. They take her to the hand facility. They heal her. Along the way, too, because Danny's acting more revengeful now. He has started to lose the Iron Fist power because he has corrupted his chi.
Right.
And the whole thing where he talks about how, you need to center yourself, and he starts training him, but Danny doesn't realize right away that he's the hand. There's no like sacrificial item. Like if he's trying to trick Danny, he's not going to leave like, clearly I'm the hand all over his wall. So he's trying to train Danny, and like Danny finds Gao, and Gao has the whole thing of like, why did you leave heaven? He goes, well, because I'm a weapon, so I'm being a weapon. I'm hunting down the people who did this. And she goes, yes, but now you've fallen into the hand. And Danny goes, I'm supposed to kill all the hand members. What are you talking about? The hand doesn't exist anymore. Nobody has seen them. Like my master said, for hundreds of years now, or whatever, something like that. And she goes, you're a foolish child, blah, 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 blah. He starts to do an investigation. Instead of just, confronting, he gets down to the lower levels of the hand facility where they have the whole blood transfusion thing, where they're bringing people back to life, and he finds Davos. And you realize that Bukatu's plan was to basically get the Iron Fist here, brainwash him, use him to fight the vigilantes. And he goes, well, we have a dead body. We could brainwash Davos, and we'll have basically 2 Iron Fists. We'll have 2 sons of Kunlun to do everything we want. And that's like these are like basically played out in those like cliche evil bad guy thing. So he convinces Wing that, you work for the Hand, you're evil. They have this whole falling out, but she still helps him escape. Davos escapes too because he's awakened now, and he's like, what happened to me? And Danny has to tell him that he died. He saw him get like impaled, and Davos is like, then how am I alive? And he tells him, and Davos gets upset because I am corrupted. I can't go back to Kunlun even when the gateway opens in 15 years. I died. I am now evil. I have this evil sorcerer power in me from the Hand. I am an enemy to Kunlun. This is all your fault, Danny. You stole the Iron Fist from me. You did this. I died. I can't go back. I can never see my father again. So again, Davos now has a better arc of reasons for hating Danny other than you told like everybody. Yeah, you hate everybody. Also, the other thing that's underplaying in this whole thing is Harold comes back to, again, the Meachums were totally cut out for me, except for these like things where Joyce is used at the beginning. Ward is completely tortured because as soon as he starts to get over it, and like Danny needs money, so he goes back, and they do that whole thing where he becomes part of the Rand again. But he goes, listen, I don't want to run it. I just wanted my money, and you guys can still do everything. I just needed a little cash. And they're like, okay. So like Ward is totally thrown off. At this point, Harold is reintroduced because the Hand brought him back to get control of Rand Enterprises to take care of Gao's money business. And I really liked Harold's story, but I felt it didn't go far enough in the crazy monster side. So he dies the first time by like literally Ward shooting him. He comes back. This is like at the halfway point during the whole like Dragon Clan plan. And he is distraught that he can't die. So he starts killing himself to try to find out if he can die. So he deteriorates faster.
That would be pretty cool.
And then Ward goes and talks to them and says, that whole thing about, sooner or later when he dies too much, he's no longer the man he was, and now he's a monster. So this is setting up Harold to be a better end game monster. He's still my finale, but we have to take care of the rest of the Hand. Bugatti comes after him, basically the same fight scene. Wing kills him, same thing. Davos is doing it simply because I'm still by duty to kill all the Hand members. I will deal with my own problem, and I'm done with you, Danny. He pieces out. So Davos is done, but you have that full arc of why he's upset now at Danny and what he wants to do. Wing and Danny make it up a little bit better. She's like, I didn't know, and he's like, I believe you. The Hand works in shadows. You can't always see them, even if you're right there. So they make up, and they're like, okay, so what do we do now? And he goes, I don't know. Like, we've stopped this Hand, but we got to find the other Hand. And then he catches on that the Hand did something to Harold Meachum. And he's like, what do you mean Harold Meachum's alive? Joyce told me he died like 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? So they go and they find him, and Harold's trying to take over Rand Enterprises again. You have that whole thing, but he is like really unhinged, insane, and basically that same fight scene happens, except when they're on the roof now, he's more brooding. Like he starts beating Danny. Danny has a flashback of like being beaten with the bamboo sticks, and Harold's beating him with a lead pipe, so he's not taking it really well. And like, he's found his chi again, and it activates the Iron Fist, and he breaks the lead pipe, and he just, takes full control and throws Harold off it, the building, because he's like, you're not a man anymore. You're just the monster. And kills
really quick, one thing that I want to mention, probably the worst offense in all of Iron Fist was in the big, giant climactic scene at the end when he's fighting Meachum, and, the Iron Fist gets shot through the hand, so now he has to do the whole fight without the Iron Fist.
No, like I want it to be the return to the Iron Fist, that like he has been so corrupted at this point of being the power and like losing his friends, and like as cheesy it is, but like the power of love, and with Wing he finds it again, but he's not sure about it. So it gets down to like he's being beaten with the lead pipe, and it reminds him of all the training he did, and like maybe some words from his master that comes through, and he's just like, okay, I am the Iron Fist, I'm doing it. He centers himself while beaten, so it's like this really powerful scene, and like the lead pipe breaks over his back because he's just become the weapon again, and he just bam and like hits him, and they drops him, and they burn Harold like they did before. Joyce doesn't know what to think anymore. She meets up with Davos, same scene, and now you just have Danny and Wing not going to Kunlun because there's no point in it.
Because it's closed.
Because
yeah.
it's closed. Because that's one of the things. Like, I don't understand why he ever left it. So we wrap that up, and basically they're just at their dojo, and they have that whole like they center each other, and they realize that maybe I can do good and teach people the ways of Kunlun here, and that's kind of where it ends.
Okay.
So that's what I pretty much cleaned up.
All right, there were actually a lot of cool ideas there that you had that I would incorporate into mine as well. First of all, the whole idea that him and Davos get into this fight, at the beginning and Kunlun closes, because you're right. The fact that Kunlun's closes, that makes a lot more sense of him going to New York than just like, oh, even though I have this sacred duty to be the immortal Iron Fist, I'm going to go see what my fam's doing back home.
Yeah, like that didn't make any sense. And like I was playing around because I liked the idea that someone could open the portal again with enough power. But I liked the idea of it's closed. I got 15 years to play before I have to go back there to defend. So I'm going to do what I was trained to do and protect Kunlun from all enemies, no matter where they are on this earth.
Yep, and I'd actually do the same thing that you mentioned with Davos as well, because you're right. That does give him a little bit more characterization, and you can also use different flashbacks to help build Davos's characterization too. But for me, the centerpiece of this whole thing is the fact that he's the Iron Fist, okay?
Yeah.
What makes him the Iron Fist? It's the fact that, again, he beat a dragon, right? So the spirit of that dragon, the flame, whatever it is, that lives inside him now. So for me, Iron Fist is more of a character piece than it is about this idea that he needs to get his company back from the Meachums or that he has to worry about destroying the hand. It's about mastering the dragon within himself, right? So the whole thing is about restraint. The dragon, wants him to just unleash his powers in just whatever way capable, right? To just scour the earth. And so it's all about trying to find this control. And because he's a little, he's headstrong, he rushes into stuff. That's part of the thing that he has to try and master. Okay.
I like that.
Honestly, the way that everything unfolds, the stuff with the Meachums, the stuff with the hand, like everything, I would keep most of that all the same. It would just be rewriting the way that it transpires, right? The fact that the hand, for at least for a while, we thought might be kind of good, that was actually so much more interesting to me because the hand in every other case has always been very, very evil. And they were trying to do some good things. They were getting kids off the street, teaching them, the importance of, like restraint, self-defense, all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. And then putting them in good jobs. And then it's like, Colin's like, no, we're not like the other hand. We're good. We're not evil. And Daniel's like, oh, no, black and white. Everything's black and white. You're the hand. You have to be evil. I'm going to beat everybody up until, oh, yeah, okay, the hand was the evil hand. That was so boring to me and so cliche. Yeah. What would have been even better and played into this whole idea of him having to find a way to harness all of this rage and like this fiery inferno that is the dragon is if this part of the hand was actually good. Like obviously they're still connected to the other one, right? But Pakdu really was about trying to save kids, get them off the street and like get them in the the right sort of place. But because Danny's so headstrong, because that dragon inside just wants him to consume the hand and burn out any remnant of them, that he's the one that keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And then after he defeats Baktu, he actually realizes that what Baktu was doing was good. But then when he sees what's left of Baktu's hand, all these innocent kids, after seeing what the Iron Fist did, they're now welcomed with open arms into the actual bad hand. Danny then has to live with the fact that he did that.
Yeah,
he basically forced them into the actual hand. That to me would be infinitely more rewarding and way more interesting. I did like what you did with Davos, where he comes back because they were trying to turn him into something that he's not, because then he basically starts to corrupt the same way that Meachum did. Yeah. And I also like the idea of Meachum having these scenes where he tries to kill himself over and over and over again. That would also be absolutely superb. The only other really big problem that I had was at the end when Davos and Joyce finally decide, like, you know what? We don't like Danny, so we're going to go ahead and, be his villains now. Right, because that made no sense for Joyce. Like, your dad was crazy. Your brother was crazy. They got themselves killed, but you're going to go ahead and blame it on Danny?
Yeah.
If all of this, again, centered around this idea that, he needs to tame the dragon that's inside to learn how to focus that power, then where Davos and Joyce want to go after Danny could then come from a place of concern and love. Ever since Danny got the dragon, since he became the Iron Fist, he's now not fire. Himself.
Yeah, he's a fire that's unstoppable. I like that.
Davos is like, Davos could be like, look, he was the one. It was never intended for him. He can't handle it. It's consuming him, And now he's hurting everyone around him. And Joyce would be like, it's because of him and that power that my father and my brother, that's what happened to them. And she's like, I need to do this for the Danny that I used to know. Even if it means killing him, we need to save him from himself. That makes a lot more sense to me. It's a lot more interesting. And it makes both Davos and the Meachins, it gives them a more human side, something that we can relate to a little bit more. And honestly, I think that would have made Iron Fist a lot better. Yeah. Oh, the other thing that I would have done, hold on. Since you got a tiny little recast, I'm not going to say it's a recast, but because in the comics, Iron Fist and Misty Knight are a thing, because you're right, the whole Claire thing, like obviously she needs to show up because she's the glue that holds everything together, right?
But she didn't have to be there that long because
all the fighting that she did, like, all right, sure, she's training now, I get that. But a lot of the stuff that she did, she had no right being there, and she really should have got her ass kicked by every single hand member.
Yeah.
What would have made more sense is if she tried to, call in a favor. Like, I know someone who could help us, right? Like when they were having trouble with the cops or the FBI or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
She calls Misty, and Misty gets, at least for a few episodes in there, that way it gets Misty and Iron Fist together, even though I don't think that Misty would fall for this version of Iron Fist whatsoever.
No, the only other thing I would have done, by the way, I totally forgot to write this in there, was at the end you have, like, after everything's said and done, they have like their little training montage between her and then before the end, it cuts back to the hand and they're talking and they go, well, Bakhtu screwed the pooch. What do we do now? We're now even farther behind. Our boss is here. And someone goes, it's too late. She's already here. And then it cuts to Madame Gao still locked in the room, and the door opens, and Gao actually gets this total look of fear on her face, and it turns, and it's Sigourney Weaver. And she goes, you work for me now. Just because
I'm not really sure what I would have done with Gao, but I hate what they did with her because through Daredevil, like especially when you had those scenes with her and the Kingpin, like Gao was set up to be such a great villain,
right? And that's
then in Iron Fist they completely neutered her.
Like I wanted to keep her. Like one of the things I thought that totally neutered her was being part of the hand, so I took her out of the hand, and her being a big thorn in the hand was a good idea for me. And she was supposed to, like, she's gonna reveal that she's the Crane Mother, which she should be in the comics, and she was from Kunlun, and there's this whole talk about how she has with Danny in my head that I didn't write because again my notes started to blur on me because I wrote them on the sticky notes. Was that
hey, me too?
Yeah, right here. And she has like this whole thing where she's like, I was from Kunlun, and you realize that she was like his master's best friend, and she left Kunlun and abandoned him. So that's how she knows Kunlun.
Right.
And like this whole arc where she's like, she's a big player in New York because she deserves it, and the hand's actually afraid of her. So that's why Bakhtu like sets this whole thing in motion to remove Gao, and it works. So at the end, when everybody's dead, Sigourney Weaver shows up, and to see her scared of Sigourney Weaver sets up Sigourney Weaver for the Defenders.
Right.
Because in that teaser trailer we saw where she's like feeding the pigeon, and Gao shows up and is basically a lapdog to her. Brings so much more power to her if you see that she's already afraid of her. That was the only thing I forgot to put in there. But no, I really like your idea of him like fighting with this unstoppable force. That's why he always has I would assume he'd always be meditating, trying to get it back into control.
Right, and then the final fight scene, instead of him, getting his hand shot, not being able to use his powers at all, the fact that, and I think because Meacham keeps killing himself and coming back, that the rate at which he comes back accelerates. So in that final fight scene, he struggles. First of all, Danny struggles with actually killing Meacham, right? But when he realizes he has no choice and he finally does it, but then Meacham keeps coming back, so he has to do it over and over. And it isn't until like the finale of the fight scene is when he finally learns how to focus the rage of the fire into the fist. And like he just has this one final epic, whatever happens, that just like incinerates Meacham or something.
I love that because you could totally play up like the horror aspect of like there's a big fight, he kills Harold, and he's like, good, we're done, and like just the body just gets back up and like recontorts, and you're just like out of focus too, so you'd save like a bunch of money, but like just that would be so horrifying, and just like Danny not knowing what to do and afraid about unleashing the dragon again. That's great. I love that a lot. That's a good idea. So that's how we would make Iron Fist better. That's our rewrite. Again,
it's really not that hard, Marvel.
No, it's one of those things. Like the reason why I wanted to do this show is because our Chris Kraus and I would always throw this back and forth. It's like one rewrite. That's all you need. You just need one rewrite.
It's weird. I'm on the fence now. Like I'm like, do you like going into Iron Fist 2? Do you just decide, you know what? no more Iron Fist. He's going to be a support character now.
I think you should.
Do you do an Iron Fist 2, but just, because of what happened with the first one, you fucking make sure it's better. Because people will not tolerate another failure like that.
Yeah, no, and I think they should scrap it and put Luke Cage on double duties and do Heroes for Hire.
That'd be a little bit better, probably.
It'd probably be a little bit better, but I don't know. I'm for him going into the Hulk territory where he can't support his own movie, so they can't support his own show, and just kind of... Don't get me wrong, Mark Ruffalo's great, just the Hulk can't support his own movie. And that's it. Tell us what you think. Which one did you like? What would you have liked to see? Comments below. Thank you, Robbie, so much for stopping by.
No problem.
There will be a link below to Robbie's radio show link and all the goodies for that. You probably came here for him, not me. Again, thank you. And up next, we're going to be doing Alien Covenant for One Rewrite. That's going to be a lot of fun because that movie was shit.
All right. Well, I mean, if you ever want me back on for any other ones, you just let me know and I'd be glad to come back.
Yeah, of course. If you ever have an idea or One Rewrite, shoot it towards me and I'll make something up.
How about the Hellboy movies? Those were terrible.
Oh, yeah, right? They were awful. Fuck those movies. That's why they're getting remaked.
Oh, I thought that you liked them.
Oh, I do. I love them. But I love them to death. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.